Hello, I'm Maruk Said, your microbiology guide. Let's explore in-depth micro techniques and uncover groundbreaking insight together on this educational journey into the fascinating realms of microbes.
Parvovirus B19 is the tiniest known DNA virus infecting animals, measuring just about 18 to 28 nanometers in size. In comparison, a typical human red blood cell measures an impressive 7,200 nanometers in size. Although it is primarily recognized for causing fifth disease, also called slapped cheek syndrome, in children, Parvovirus B19 can also impact adults and may lead to severe illness in people with underlying conditions, such as sickle cell anemia and HIV.
If you have watched till here, don't forget to subscribe to Family of Science Lovers. Press the bell icon button so you are always updated.
Once there, Parvovirus B19 enters erythroid progenitor cells, also known as pro-erythroblasts, the early precursors that eventually develop into red blood cells, through receptor-mediated endocytosis. It then utilizes the host cell's DNA replication machinery within the nucleus to copy its genetic material and assemble new viral particles. Why doesn't it simply replicate in respiratory system cells? Well, it turns out that Parvovirus B19 requires two key factors. It has a preference for binding to a specific receptor called the P antigen, which is abundantly present on the membrane of pro-erythroblasts. And it needs cells that are in the S phase of the cell cycle, the stage during which DNA replication occurs. Since the body continuously generates new red blood cells, pro-erythroblasts are consistently passing through the S phase at any given time. As the virus replicates and matures, it produces a protein known as non-structural protein 1, NS1, which is toxic to human cells and triggers apoptosis, or programmed cell death. As a result, erythropoiesis is disrupted, leading to a reduced number of newly formed red blood cells entering circulation due to Parvovirus B19 infection. But fortunately, this effect is only temporary. When the infected cell dies, it ruptures, releasing numerous viral particles into the bloodstream, a stage known as viremia. The immune system then recognizes the virus and begins producing specific immunoglobulin M, IgM, and immunoglobulin G, IgG, antibodies to combat the infection by forming immune complexes with the Parvovirus B19 antigen. In individuals with a competent immune system, this response usually occurs within 10 to 14 days after the initial infection. Parvovirus B19 is most frequently seen in young children and individuals who live or work closely with them, such as parents, siblings, and daycare staff. Fetuses are vulnerable to Parvovirus B19 if the pregnant mother has not previously been exposed to the virus. Immunocompromised individuals are also at higher risk of developing chronic Parvovirus B19 infection, as their immune system is unable to mount an effective response against the virus. The incubation period for Parvovirus B19, essentially the time before viremia begins, ranges from 4 to 14 days, after which symptoms start to appear. Flu-like symptoms, such as a low-grade fever, headache, and muscle aches, are most common during the viremic phase. Once the immune response is activated and viremia subsides, these symptoms resolve, and some individuals may then develop a rash and slash or joint discomfort. The rash presents as a uniform redness on the cheeks, sparing the area around the mouth, producing the classic slapped cheek appearance of fifth disease. A lacy patterned rash may also develop on the trunk and extremities. Joint pain and inflammation, referred to as arthralgia and arthritis, associated with Parvovirus B19 infection typically involve the small joints of the hands, wrists, feet, and knees, and are often symmetrical, meaning the same joints on both sides of the body are affected. Children are more likely to develop the rash, whereas adults are more prone to joint pain, although either manifestation can occur in both groups. There are several complications associated with Parvovirus B19 infection. The reduction in red blood cell production can lead to a transient aplastic crisis in individuals with underlying conditions such as sickle cell anemia, hereditary spherocytosis, and thalassemia. Since they already have a reduced number of red blood cells, the disruption of erythropoiesis can result in severe anemia, presenting with symptoms like pallor, fatigue, and weakness. Parvovirus B19. Infection in a pregnant woman can also lead to anemia in the fetus. With fewer red blood cells available to transport oxygen, the fetal heart compensates by pumping a greater volume of blood to meet oxygen demands. This increases pressure within the blood vessels, causing fluid to leak from capillaries. As a result, this may lead to hydrops fetalis, which is the abnormal buildup of fluid in soft tissues. Fetal anemia is also associated with fetal loss, especially if the infection occurs during the first half of pregnancy. The reassuring news is that there are no congenital defects linked to Parvovirus B19 in fetuses that survive the infection. Lastly, immunocompromised individuals, such as organ transplant recipients and those with HIV, may develop a serious complication of Parvovirus B19, known as pure red blood cell aplasia. This is a type of chronic, severe anemia characterized by a marked reduction of immature red blood cells in circulation, as well as a deficiency of erythroid progenitor cells in the bone marrow. The symptoms of pure red blood cell aplasia are similar to other types of anemia, including fatigue and general malaise. Parvovirus B19 infection is typically diagnosed through clinical evaluation. Blood tests that detect antibodies to the virus, specifically immunoglobulin M and immunoglobulin G, are usually reserved for atypical cases and for pregnant individuals. Another method is polymerase chain reaction, PCR, which identifies viral DNA. It is the preferred diagnostic approach for Parvovirus B19 infection in immunocompromised individuals, who often do not produce high levels of IgM or IgG in response to infection. PCR can also be performed on amniotic fluid to detect infection in a fetus.
If you have watched till here, don't forget to subscribe to Family of Science Lovers. Press the bell icon button so you are always updated.
When it comes to treatment for Parvovirus B19 infection, it depends on the clinical presentation. Fifth disease is generally mild and resolves on its own, whereas a transient aplastic crisis often requires blood transfusions. Arthralgia and arthritis are managed with NSAIDs and typically improve without further intervention. Chronic infections in immunocompromised individuals are treated with intravenous immune globulin, IVIG, which involves administering antibodies, primarily immunoglobulin G derived from donor plasma. Severe fetal anemia between 18 and 35 weeks of gestation can be managed with an intrauterine blood transfusion. Before 18 weeks, the procedure is technically challenging. After 35 weeks, the risks associated with transfusion are higher compared to opting for delivery of the baby. Finally, there is currently no vaccine available for Parvovirus B19. Preventive measures include thorough hand washing with antiseptic soap and water, as well as disinfecting surfaces that may have been exposed to respiratory droplets, since the virus can persist on surfaces. All right, let's summarize this. Parvovirus B19 is a single-strand DNA virus of the Parvoviridae family. It infects and replicates in erythroid progenitor cells in the bone marrow. Viral replication results in apoptosis of infected cells. It's transmitted by respiratory droplets. Flu-like symptoms are common during the viremia phase of the infection, followed by a slapped cheek rash and/or joint pain. Children are more likely to show the rash, and adults tend to have the joint pain. Parvovirus B19 can cause transient aplastic crisis in individuals with underlying hemolytic disorders, fetal loss and hydrops fetalis in pregnancy, and pure red blood cell aplasia in immunocompromised individuals. Treatment for Parvovirus B19 varies according to the symptoms and can involve blood transfusion for transient aplastic crisis and hydrops fetalis and immune globulin intravenous therapy for chronic infections.